I watched two strangers grab my wife by the arms and drag her off our deck, while the HOA lady filmed like she was shooting a reality show. It was all on my cameras. 3 angles, no doubt about what was happening. My hands didn't shake from fear. They shook from that cold kind of anger that makes your vision narrow. And I told myself I had 30 seconds to end it, without breaking anyone. The crazy part wasn't the takedown, it was the question behind it. Why did they come for us at all? And what did we stumble into 3 nights earlier that made us a target? My name is Caleb Ford, 8 years in Navy Special Operations. I moved to Red Cedar Cove, Wisconsin, to do something simple. Drink coffee on a quiet dock, watch my wife, Lena, chase sunrises with a paintbrush, learn the names of the birds. You know what I mean. We lasted 2 weeks before the storm hit in heels, and a name badge. Her name was Madeline Pierce. She called herself HOA president, and the second her eyes hit my veteran plates, her smile tightened like a knot. That same week, Lena saw Madeline at the community mailboxes at 11 p.m. Thick envelopes into a tote bag. A quick look over the shoulder, an SUV door shutting a little too fast. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. By morning, we had violation slips for a flag that measured out perfectly. Planter boxes 1 inch too bold for her taste. My truck not in harmony with community character. Even a comment about my disabled placard sounding like an accusation dressed as a question. That happened. An older neighbor, Walt Jenkins, stiff left leg Vietnam years, carried in his shoulders, stopped me at the curb and handed over a frayed manila folder. Photos of houses with service flags, cut and paste complaints, dues, spreadsheets with numbers that didn't line up a pattern you could trace with your finger. "You're not the first," he said, eyes on the road. She tried to make me doctor. The books when I refused. She turned the screws until 3 veteran families packed up and left. The smear started polite a post in the neighborhood group about keeping a civilian culture free from intimidation. Little words with sharp teeth. Some folks pushed back, some nodded along. And just like that, our street learned how to look away. Then the cousins showed up. Troy and Brandon, uniforms crisp, like they'd come straight out of a plastic bag. Clipboards, plastic badges, HOA security. Inspection, they said. But their eyes skipped the planters and went straight to windows. Latches, camera, blind spots, the gap under the side gate. It wasn't compliance. It was recon. The VA call hit the next day. An external complaint questioned my disability rating screenshots of me patrolling during morning runs, language crafted just right to sound official while stabbing where it hurts. And I felt that special kind of betrayal, the kind where your service gets turned into a weapon against you. Walt brought a second folder, worse than the first, missing meeting minutes, sticky note receipts, bylaws with pages quietly gone, and the sentence that stuck under my skin. She never had a legal election. She just declared herself in charge, and no one wanted the fight. Paper bullies love a blank form, and a confident voice. You can run a kingdom on those, if nobody calls you on it. The morning everything snapped was painter-perfect water, like glass. Lena set her easel on the deck and said, "I'm not living like a prisoner because a clipboard says so." Then Madeline's SUV rolled up and disgorged the cousins again. This time with 2 buddies hanging back, trying very hard to look like they weren't with them. Madeline hit record on her phone. Troy puffed up. "Ma'am, you need to vacate this unsafe deck." Lena smiled that teacher smile and asked for the regulation and their authority. Madeline's face twitched. "We are the authority," she snapped. "Remove the entitled one before she calls her soldier boy." I was already on with 911. As I hit the door, I announced every step, kept my hands where every camera could see them. Asked Troy twice to release my wife. He squeezed harder. So I took his wrist and rolled a pressure point that turns bravado into compliance. Brandon tried to hang on. I borrowed his momentum and set him face down with a joint lock. That's mostly physics and a little mercy. 30 seconds. No punches. No hero poses. The costume did the rest. Troy's patch tore free. His shirt rode up bright red. Party Patrol tank top. Underneath his plastic badge, pinged into a planter. A neighbor laughed without meaning to, and Madeline kept narrating like a nature show. Get his aggression, capture the military violence. While Brandon whimpered, Cousin Mad said this would be easy into the deck boards. The real officer arrived, took one long look at the dollar store uniform situation, asked for contracts, and minutes asked who hired, who and when. Madeline waved her phone and said, "I don't answer to you. You could feel the room change. If the story ended there, I'd pour coffee and move on." But the next day, the system came for me with a stack of paperwork, emergency protective order, based on edited clips, assault complaints written like a novel, a fresh letter to the VA, framing me as a fraud who flung 2 officers like rag dolls. Clients hit pause. My clearance went under review. The house felt quiet and strange. That's when a text from a number I didn't know popped up. I'm not like her. Can we meet? It was Madeline's son. Noah, 19, and heartbreak in a hoodie. He slid me a thumb drive with voice memos of his mother rehearsing victim testimony, coaching the cousins to cry on cue, laughing about poking the service bear, plus a Zoom clip of her PTSD expert in equine scrubs explaining dissociation in horses, like he'd Googled it that morning. You know what I mean. The second file he brought made my scalp prickle. Project Quiet Street. Spreadsheets of veteran families across 4 states. Notes on pressure points pulled from Facebook. Step-by-step neutralization timelines. Late-night knocks, letters to employers, anonymous calls to school counselors. Each line had a little smiley face box for results. Moved, withdrew, laid off. And right then, I knew we weren't just fighting a bad neighbor. We were pulling on a thread tied to other towns. We built a tiny war room at Walt's kitchen table. Walt me Colonel Rivera from the Air Force community. Brooks, who did Navy intel. Denise the paralegal, who reads like a laser cutter. We copied everything stored duplicates off-site, sent a clean packet to state investigators, and a federal tip line kept quiet, while Madeline called an emergency community meeting to remove destabilizing military families. The night of that meeting, the air in the room felt wrong. Before anyone spoke, men stationed near the exits with quiet shoes and the kind of posture training leaves in your bones. Not neighbors, not volunteers. Madeline opened with her mirror-polished speech about safety and civilian peace. Then Noah stood, turned on a palm-sized speaker, and said, "My name is Noah Pierce. You deserve to hear what my mother actually says." And he pressed play. Her voice filled the room, bragging about running off the camo crowd, mocking therapy, calling memorial funds. Easy money from guilty patriots. You could watch faces change in real time. Walt set down a banker's box. Denise read line items. Brooks pointed to. Timestamps. Rivera explained how an HOA is supposed to work and how none of this did a vote. Was called, It wasn't close. And while the crowd buzzed, two people with that unhurried federal energy stepped forward. Cuffs clicked, and Madeline looked at me with that empty smile and said, "Cut off one head if it makes you feel brave. You have no idea how deep this goes." And for the first time in a long time, I felt something colder than anger. The rest moved fast. Local charges for embezzlement and fraud, the U.S. attorney adding mail fraud and conspiracy because stolen checks and fake memorial donations don't respect state lines. A civil rights angle for targeting a protected class under state law. The VA letter clearing my rating with a plain sentence that read, "Complaint not credible," and part of a pattern my clearance restored with a quiet note that meant more than the stamp. Sentencing day was tired and necessary. Months inside restitution probation, a statewide ban on serving any neighborhood board or soliciting donations, a formal acknowledgement that veterans had been targeted. Noah changed his last name and started a small scholarship for military kids. The first thank you photo sits taped behind Lena's studio sink, where only she can see it. Walt, who never wanted the job, was elected HOA president. Unanimously. He opened the books, put the spending online, poured coffee on his porch. For anyone who asked, the memorial garden that never materialized finally bloomed. A gold star. Mom laid a hand on the stone and closed her eyes, and I'm not a crier, but I was that day. One morning I jogged past a woman trimming hedges at that garden under county supervision, chin down. Silent, I didn't slow. Mercy isn't pretending it never happened. It's choosing the better next step. You'd think the credits roll there. But 3 weeks later, an email hit my consulting inbox. Subject line just said, "Help a military family in New Mexico facing community peace protocols that use the same font, the same checklists, the same smiley face outcomes, different names on top, same bones." Underneath. I walked into Lena's studio. She was rinsing brushes, sunlight in her hair. And when I told her, she set the brush down and asked, "So what now?" Sailor and I laughed for the first time that day and said, "Now we do what we always do. We tell the truth, louder than the lie. We help people keep their homes. Look, not every HOA is a villain. Standards matter. Fences should be safe. Lawns don't mow themselves. But authority without accountability is just a costume with a plastic badge. And if we say we support veterans, we can't panic when a flag on the porch comes with a voice that won't be quiet." If you've made it this far, do me a favor and jump in the comments. Did I do the right thing on that deck? Or should I have waited and risked Lena getting hurt? Where's the line between community standards and prejudice when the paperwork looks official? Have you seen a rule book used like a hammer on the wrong people and stayed quiet because the person swinging it sounded confident? Tell me what justice looks like where you live. Push back if you need to share your story, if you've got one, because the only way this stops is if good neighbors stop whispering and start talking out loud.